I'm Ann Carlson. I'm the Shirley Shapiro Professor of Environmental Law. More excitingly, I'm the author of a forthcoming book called Smog and Sunshine, The Surprising Story of How Los Angeles Cleaned Up Its Air. I was born and raised in Southern California, and I lived through the smoggiest decades of Los Angeles smog in the 1960s, 70s, all the way into the 90s. And I'm always struck by how few people understand just how bad the air was and what we've accomplished to clean it up. So in 1960, the year that I was born, there were 286 days that Southern California violated ozone standards. In Southern California, lead concentrations were 50 times higher than they are today. Carbon monoxide, in 1964, we violated the carbon monoxide standard that California had set on 366 days. It was a leap year in 1964. We don't violate the carbon monoxide standard anymore. We don't violate the lead standard anymore. In the 1970s, we'd have smog alerts on more than half of the days of the year. We haven't had a single smog alert since 2003. So the story of how Southern California cleaned up its air is centrally about government. The reality is that without government, we would not have cleaned up our air to the degree that we have today. It took government, but it also took government with incredible public support and public pressure. Let me tell you about five different people who were extraordinarily important in the fight to clean our air. One is a scientist named Ari Haagen-Smit, and he was a Caltech scientist. And what was kind of funny about him is he studied the pineapple. And it turned out that studying the pineapple was very important in figuring out what constitutes smog. What is it that contributes to creating the brown kind of muck that was polluting LA air and Southern California air? And the reason he started focusing on it is because crops were dying. Because he was a plant scientist, it became really important for him to try to figure out what is going on here. He built a chamber outside his offices at Caltech and concocted smog in that chamber and realized that the pollutants that were coming out of the tailpipes of cars didn't cause smog in and of themselves. It was when they were exposed to sunshine that created the toxic brew that Los Angeles was famous for. Mary Nichols, our own Mary Nichols, who is a distinguished scholar here at UCLA, twice served on the California Air Resources Board, leading the state first in getting catalytic converter technology installed on every vehicle. That was the single most important technological advance, and that technology is spread around the world. Another really important person was Juana Gutierrez, who headed a group called Mothers of East LA, who brought attention to the fact that even as our air quality was getting cleaner, communities of color were still being burdened with pollution sources in their neighborhoods that were creating problems of environmental justice. Her and her group stopped the building of an incinerator in East LA, a garbage incinerator that would have added to the pollution problems of East Los Angeles. Another really important person is Henry Waxman. Henry Waxman is actually a UCLA law grad who went on to serve for 40 years as a member of the House of Representatives. And he fought efforts in the 1980s to curtail the Clean Air Act and the power of the Clean Air Act. But not only did he do that successfully, he then pushed for amendments to the Clean Air Act in 1990 that really strengthened the act and continued to help Southern California clean up its air. I went on a hike in Glacier National Park with a number of other UCLA women to raise money for the Emmett Institute. And the hike happened to coincide with the worst wildfires in Montana history. And the smoke was so bad that we were being rained on with ash. And the woman who was leading us on the hikes, who was from Montana, leaned over to me and she said, "This must remind you of home." And I just couldn't believe that she thought that our air quality in Los Angeles was so bad that it resembled the air quality in Montana during the worst wildfires in history. And she was only one of many people who I think continue to perceive Los Angeles air quality as really just a cesspool. And that's not true anymore. It is true that we still have air pollution problems, but the contrast between then and now is so extraordinary. And what we've accomplished in cleaning up our air is such an important story to tell that I felt absolutely compelled to write this book. My new book, Smog and Sunshine, The Surprising Story of How Los Angeles Cleaned Up Its Air, comes out on April 7th, but you can pre-order it at smogandsunshine.com.